Just stream. Turn on your stream machine and stream for me. Where? Under the moonlight. The serious moonlight. Alright, this looks different from how it looked last week. Okay, it still works though. Alright, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Wonder if I can change this? Never mind. That's too complicated. Let's go back. And microphone. Alright, ripples. I think we have it at a nice spot this time. Get this propped up properly. Why did it work so good yesterday? Now it doesn't work at all anyway. Well, close enough. Close enough. All right, Ripples, what am I forgetting? Pencil, check. 2 pencils, check. Sharpener, sharpened. Eraser. Reference material. Yeah, I think that'll do. I'll pick a fly or something today. Because life's like a hurricane here in Duckburg. Race cars, lasers, aeroplanes. It's a duck blur. You might solve a mystery. I'm still hosting Foxotic. I wonder why that is. Oh, Fox, why you up in my stuff? Twitch. 'Cause yeah, we're running. Activity. Hey, Space Goonie. Activity feed. How do I go to... Alright, according to my screen, I'm not hosting Fox anymore. So if you possibly... Oh, never mind. You already know. I was going to say, if you hit refresh, perhaps it'll fix it. Anyway, let's stream under the moonlight. The serious streaming moonlight. I can never remember. There we go. 3, 2, 1. Start the intro and here it goes. Hopefully I covered up the other headphones. I didn't. They're sitting there making their echoes. And there's a penguin and a shark. Milo's hanging out. Shotgun. Get out of here, Ripples. And hello. Trying something slightly different with the lighting this time. I think it's focused here good, and not so much here. And you can kind of see that there's some red in the background. Whoever explains that? Nobody. Hey, it's Stephen Colbert. Welcome to the Colbert Report, or whatever it's called, the Tonight Show. Before we get going, let me tell you about the lights we got going back here. Jimmy came in and he threw some red lights over there and moved the plant out so that they'll hit the wall nicely. And yeah, we'll get to the political stuff in a minute. And then back here, we got those Christmas lights. We put them on the back of the thing, but because these lights aren't as harsh, you get to see them a little bit. And you know, welcome to the Tonight Show. This, of course, is the Tonight Show. This is No Such Thing as Grown-Ups, the drawing portion. I was in the middle of editing, or at least putting together the good audio from Tara's side and my side of the podcast we recorded last week that you can still watch either here on Twitch or over on Facebook, probably on Mixer as well. But holy snaps, Daryl's here. Hey, Daryl. But hi, Pat. Hi, Space Goonie. And Daryl, did you get your book yet? Did you get your book yet? When did I put that in the mail? You probably don't have your book yet. But yeah, Daryl just bought a dinosaur book and drew something in it, of course. And somebody else just bought a dinosaur book as a Valentine's gift for her husband and or boyfriend. I don't know. So yeah, I already started like doodling stuff in here so that I don't spend half my day making a mess and then erasing. And by half my day, I mean half your day. And then of course, I went out into the world for 5 minutes. And you think you might meet a nice old lady. Remember last week when I was like, hey, there was this lady in the lineup and she wanted me to read her expiration dates for her. Like, of course. Oh, and then she didn't have enough money. Let me get that for you. Oh my God, I'm gonna go. This week, all the good people, they went into the woods and the bad people came out. And they put on real good people disguise, And I was like, oh, hey, nice good person. You're a good person. Anyway, now I have to rob you. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Oh, man. Got my Streamlabs sweater on. It says All-Star. Let's pretend I'm an All-Star. I'm at least an All-Star at my job at Streamlabs headquarters, where I work and they pay for my Fanta cans and my lights. I mean, you know, by paying me to work there. Snaps. Anyway. No, I didn't get robbed. I need to rob somebody. I mean, I did get robbed. We already talked about that. But that's just, you know, those were things that were kept outside the apartment on the walls, you know, where you keep pictures and stuff. And yeah, those were stolen. No, I didn't get mugged. Nothing actually bad happened to me other than, hey, should I be mean to this old lady? Should I be mean? I don't think so. But I'm going to pick a bug real quick. Where are my photos? Why can't I get back? Gotta get back to photos. It's weird. I could have swore I had one. You're too gross. That bug is too gross. Okay, we'll do whatever this thing is. Didn't keep the names of them all, but I think this might be a dragonfly. God, everything is disgusting. Everything is disgusting when you look at it close up. I just don't approve of, and I mean, it's why the Predator, and I didn't switch cameras, it's why the Predator is such a great character, is at that point when, you know, he takes off the mask and he's got, like, fingers on his mouth. That's one of the great, I mean, aside from the other 35 things that make the Predator great, once you get to that point, you're like, oh my God, under that awesome mask, you've got fingers on your face? You're the worst. You're gonna win. No matter who loses, or no matter who wins, we lose, you're always gonna win. That's just a Predator fact. That's why you have to make them give in and kind of be good guys in the end, because they're just too powerful. But oh man, bugs are gross. But anyway, yeah, like same thing as trying to draw that grasshopper in my head. I'm like, yeah, I'll draw no, it's not Pat Paradise. It's Pat Prowse, who you probably still worked with at some point in time, somewhere. and vice versa. Pat, you probably worked with Daryl through some ways or means at some point in time, because we all kind of float in those similar circles. But yeah, Pat mostly it was in the Fat Cat world and whatever other titles that place had. But you probably had more crossover with all your stuff. But now it's Pat and Daryl, new friends forever. Business acquaintances, hooking up on LinkedIn. So yeah, I guess story-wise, oh god, every time I keep going to say something, I venture back down to the mouth of this thing, and I'm just like, what's going on there? Because it's not just one, there's another one. And then, you know, they used that for the Blade 2 vampire things that showed up that were like, we need something better. Hey, I got an idea. What's that movie meeting guy for New Line Cinema? Remember the Predator? Of course we all remember the Predator. It was the best thing. Remember when the thing came out with the hands? Like, yeah, let's do that. Good idea. Let's do that. And I think Jeepers Creepers did the same thing. Because he's a big fat Lugaroo. Doing it just for you. Like, what is this thing? Like, okay, things I never think about on insects. There's like the antenna come out of its head. The antenna just come out of its head. And then meanwhile, oh, for the love of, where'd it go? Not you, you gross. We look at the top of this thing's head here. Like, what's up? What? Hey, here's my antenna. Fine, those are gross enough as it is. But then you got like, oh, and by the way, these are probably eyes as well, or sensors or something that make me better than all of you, and this is why if we were slightly bigger, we would destroy everything, and we're already getting bigger. But look at that mouth. Look at that mouth. That's like 3 different pincer things. They're going all the way back here. And if this is a dragonfly, which I think it is, oh, you know, I spent half my life, a good chunk as a child, just being like, no deal, dragonflies. I'm pretty sure the back part is like some sort of prehensile hook that will just won't let go or stab in. And and most bugs always do have another weird jerk face on top of the other jerk face. You know, my favorite thing. I feel like I read the book Mimic as well for some reason. Maybe no, I think I did. But or maybe the sequel to the Relic did the same thing, or the original Relic, but how Mimic was like, I'm a big bug monster, but I can look like a man in a suit. Still haunts me to this day, I'm sure, if I think about it long enough. But I mean, does David Attenborough do bugs? Yeah, he covers bugs too. I'm sure there's hours of David Attenborough pointing out and listing how, if you notice here, the common friendliest butterfly in the world, when it spreads spreads its wings thusly, it looks like a deadly skull of a viper. Snake, I don't know. Oh, second pass. What are they feeding you? The other Pat's French as well. They won't take you to the vet because you're a Pat and you're not a pet. Or maybe they do if it's like a Trailer Boys criminal situation. Alright, let's sum this up. cell phone selfie monster. Eight to 9 years, Pat. Oh, how is that possible? Oh, Pat. Oh, you just made me feel so old, Pat. Oh, Pat. Oh man, I wish there's like a Pet Sematary song that has like snaps. I'm not gonna be buried in a pet cemetery. I'm gonna be buried in a Jenny cemetery because her family's pretty big and they probably have one. Markers. Ah. Alright. Did we do greens again? We did greens last time, didn't we? Tell the poop story. Oh yeah, that was green. Oh, the one that's animated on YouTube? It has been a while. I think I sent that to somebody not too long ago. That's what's great about having this podcast. I mentioned something about I was doing designs for a crow at work there, and somebody was like, blah, 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 what if they said this? And I said, oh, I would love to actually throw this in their face, like, hey, actually, I can't make a mean crow. I have a real problem with making mean crows now because my dad was all about crows, and then he died, and now I think he's a crow, blah, blah, blah. Just... It's kind of fun you have it at work, at your office place, where it's like, hey, you know what would be fun, guys? If I threw some dead dad in the face of some of these people making requests, just to, throw them off their balance, just to John Mulaney them and keep them out of time or whatever. Anyway, first the evil story, and then we'll go to some poop stories. Let's go with some yellows and oranges here. If I got enough orange. Where are you? What we got in here? Similar but different. Generic markers. So, I went out into the world as I occasionally do, and let's grab this one too. Let's get silly. All right, grabbing a bunch of yellows. If you're Bob Rossing along and making yourself a pin-up insect lady. So, whatever I did, I'm sure I had some other stories. Oh, I went and got a haircut. I didn't really get any stories from that other than the lady that cut my hair was like, oh, I'm glad that's over. And whatever the word she said could have meant... like, I'm glad that rush is over, but not rush, but like that insurgence, that like, oh, I was here a minute ago when I made my appointment. You said come back in 45 minutes. And yeah, there was a lot of people here, and now there isn't. So, oh, you mean the pile of people? And she was like, and I must have, however I reacted was in a questioning, like, you mean all the people? Like, because it still kind of feels like there's still a good chunk of people. What are we talking about? And she said something like, oh, no. I mean that before... Where's this? 1. The kid that was there before me was like a little kid, and it was having a crazy tantrum. You're not numbered. And she was like, the mom couldn't console it, blah, blah, blah. I just wanted that to end, and that was the worst thing ever. And I do the thing that Curtises do when somebody brings up, how horrible kids are. And I say something like, yeah, kids are the worst. Kids are the worst, or I don't blame you, or... there's got to be a way to pass that along to something else. Anyway, oh yeah, this is, follow my Instagram. Don't just think it's grown ups on Instagram. There's Spider Woman. Why can't it just Jessica Drew? Is that Spider Woman? I think so. Triceratops lady. That's Dr. Dreamulus. She's like well, she's a DJ, but that doesn't go on quotes. But she's also like a YouTube life guru type of person. And I don't know. Every time she pops up on my Instagram, I'm like, oh yeah, anything's possible. You're crazy and fun. That was going to be a Mega Man, Dr. Octopus. Where did those go? Oh, there it is. Donut boobs. And that's also just some Instagram model whose name I don't remember. Just things pop up. Spider-Woman. Spider-Woman is a woman from the gym. Spider-Woman, Spider-Woman does whatever a spider would, man. You got some weights, I'll help you lift. It's kind of like a little gift. Hey, man, here's the Spider-Woman. Wow, wow, wow. Is she strong? Listen, bud, she'll lift at least 50% if she has to. Can she swing from a thread? Well, I mean, there's like kind of the chin-up thing overhead. Hey, man, there goes the Spider-Woman. Actually, yes, that totally makes super sense. Mostly because I hate Facebook, and yeah, I'm like, I do see the Transformer a day a lot of the times there, but I'm just like, oh, it's usually at the end of like, I forgot I hate you, Facebook. Get into here, like, oh, a Transformer. And I don't read or get the thing, but on Instagram, I definitely see that every day because Instagram's fun to look at things. And Facebook is the saddest place on earth. And I promise you will have twice as many followers as me in like 2 weeks, just because you're an actual Super Transformer aficionado, and stuff like that is king of Instagram. I'm still pretty obscure. Also, I feel like I'm sure there has been at least one time where you yourself has posted, why do I question things? I already know that if Katie says something, Katie's always right. It could be somebody else, could be another Katie, but I feel like you were the one that was like, Katie said this and she was right. So she's probably right. And I know Tim seems to be an Instagram hero already, and I was like, why are you not on Instagram? You were like such an Instagram character. Be Instagramming that character. And he's like, that's what Brad keeps saying. I'm like, because Brad's right. And then he was on Instagram, and same deal within no time whatsoever. I'm like, hey, you're beating me on Instagram like I said you would. Not that Instagram's a competition, but if we do grade each other on numbers, that's what happens. So anyway, I say to the lady cutting my hair, that thing that I do, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, kids are the worst. She's like, oh, so I guess you're not going to have any. Like, oh no, not at all. And just some quick, like, random stories of taking children in. It's just like, it's not that I'm bad with kids. Just after, 20 minutes, I'm good. Or even like a few hours. Like, all right, I put out some like little shows for them. We had a lot of fun. I'm exhausted. They have to go away. Plus, the main thing that is, I'm so terrified that they're going to get hurt. And they just keep falling and doing things that get themselves hurt. And that's my responsibility. Get out of my house, kids. You're too volatile. So she answers that with, oh, well, I can't hate kids or whatever like you because I've got two of my own. Which was very, very difficult not to retort with, oh, that's the greatest reason to not like children is because you know firsthand. That's like, what are you doing here at your job? You can't go to your job and also raise two kids. That's beyond exhausting, beyond exhausting. It's too much. And, oh yeah, exactly, Daryl. That's what my Instagram is. I know a bunch of my friends, like Tara said the same thing. Like this is for me. I kind of don't really care. I'm the one that looks at my Instagram. I look at my Instagram more than anybody else's Instagram, but also it is just a great place to like you see more of what people are doing, they're about to do, and what they have done. Whereas Instagram and Facebook, I feel like, and I don't know, I think I said this on the podcast anyway. Facebook is wah. This is why everything sucks. This is why everyone's trying to, whatever, the government. And it gets real exhausting real quick. And especially, like, you know the way I am. I am so easily just infected with the downtroddenness of the entire internet or the news or whatever it is, where it's like, sorry guys, I gotta cut myself off and draw insect heads on things, because that's just as dumb as what everybody else is doing as far as, you know, running countries and whatever. So why not? Why not feel like I'm having a good time in my garage? In my garage. Is this the same color still? So anyway, I felt real bad, but I think we got to a place where we agreed that it's like, no, it's not that, you know, I don't think you're stupid for having your kids. Like, hopefully you love them and you have a great time with them. I'm saying that I would lose my mind. Therefore, yeah, I don't, it's not a thing I want to do. And that's okay. That's okay, because if you sat down to draw insect heads on things, oh, or the other thing we have to talk about, build one of these things, um, a crazy maquette, like, that would drive me crazy. I just peeled the skin off, but it tore a bunch of skin off my thumb, making these little hands. And yeah, people don't have that kind of patience. And that's just a thing, and that's fine. Yeah. But he's got, like, magnetic feet. Oh, snaps. So I can, like, put him on something metal. And stop motioning him around. But anyway, haircut. That was a mild whatever. I didn't super offend anybody. Yeah, Tara got it for me like 1,000 years ago. But the instructions are like, there's not much instructions to it. It's just basically like, put these things together and then shape it like this human thing, and then here's how you make the hands. And that part seemed the most crazy, but mostly because it was like, you know, this part looks the same as this part. I can't get them to go together. I don't know what am I doing wrong. And you know, it's not till like you do manage to get a bunch of stuff together, we're like, oh, now I see why I'm wrong, and do a bunch of it again. But yeah, literal years. Like times like almost every, you know, once a month, every few weeks, open up the little container with all the pieces and just be like, no, this is crazy. There's too many things in here. Then it turned out to be pretty fun. But speaking of the evil people, and again, this person, I don't know, it's a weird thing where it's just like, oh, you're trying to be so good. But on the way home, there's like this secondhand store that I pass all the time. Like, oh, I gotta check that place out one of these days. I keep forgetting it's a thing, except when it's closed. And this time, like, oh, right, it's the middle of the day, it's open. I'm going to go in there before they close, like an hour from now or something like that if I decide to come back. I go in and just wander around. It's got like basically a little bit of everything, the same as most um, uh, secondhand stores. It's got some clothes, but it's got like a lot of just weird stuff, like old signs, you know, crazy metal things, wood things. Some of it's like newer things. Um, but for the most part, it's like, oh, I could look around here for a little while and see a bunch of stuff, and probably even find something I could use. So some people come and go, and she pretty much talks to everybody. And it's like her shop with like her husband, but he wasn't there, and she kept saying like, "Oh, he's gone doing this thing or whatever." Like, all right, cool, I don't care. And they're like in the process of reorganizing the store, and she tells me that for some reason, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, no, like that's a lot of work. Like, I don't envy you. Good luck with that. This is a lot of stuff to like set up." And she's like, "Oh well, you know, it's." We're actually like moving it, so I was like, oh, I thought you were, you know, doing an initial setup of a bunch of stuff that came in or something. But yeah. At least you know what's going on, so you kind of have a plan. That's great. Blah blah blah, bling 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 blah. And she kind of explains like, oh, well, the shelves used to be like this, and then I couldn't really see anything. This way I can see everything, and, you know, people won't steal from me. And I'm like, oh, yeah, like, this kind of store is ripe for stealing. But I started to say, like, that's one of the things I still have the radio in the car. I still hear that bad things happen. People got jumped. People get robbed. I'm pretty sure somebody broke into my car. Bad things still happen. But they didn't take it in though. That looks like they just opened it and walked away. But yeah, like I'm trying to say, like, oh yeah, like what I love about Truro is the fact that like there's so much stuff outside, and other than, again, like I put those pictures in my hallway and I didn't expect them to get stolen. And in the street, there's like speakers everywhere playing music all the time. People don't destroy those, and blah 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 blah. And she tells me the story of this lady that stole something, and she's like, "Well, it was this purse or this bag," and she's like, "It was a high end one too, and it was still like just $30 or $20." But she was like, "But still, it was a nice bag. Of course, she'd want to steal it." But I saw her. She like tried some stuff on, did this and that, and I was like, all right, well, see you later. And she just kind of managed to get out before I could like get to her and say, oh, you didn't pay for that yet. And you couldn't have forgotten. She was like, it was a big bag. And I saw her go with her bag and this new bag, and she threw it in her car and drove away. And she used to come in all the time, she said. So I was like, well, she'll be back. She's like a regular customer. Maybe it was a mistake. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, still some benefit of the doubting happening here. And she says the lady doesn't come back for like another week, and then another week, and it's like, well, that's like weird for this lady that, like, you know, she never doesn't show up for this amount of time, other than, you know, when you feel guilty because you just robbed a place. So she eventually finally comes back in the store, and the store lady says, you never paid for that bag, by the way. And she's like, oh, I didn't? Oh my God, like, I'm so sorry. I must have made a mistake, like, oops. And she's like, yeah, that's fine. She's like, anyway, if you just want to pay for it, like, that's okay. Like, or bring it back, basically. And, like, you know, I'll still pretend it was a mistake, even though we both know you stole it. And then the lady's like, oh, well, actually, you know, hard times, you know, I'm having hard times. I don't know if I can pay for it right now, kind of thing. Like, well, so then you stole it then. So then you obviously stole it because you're saying, you know, you couldn't have accidentally almost bought it because you couldn't afford it because you still can't afford it. This is your hard luck story. And so it sounds like she made her pay for it or whatever. Like, all right, that's fine. You're still the hero of this story so far. So that's what I mostly, I think, start saying, like, yeah, that's what I like about this town is that it's like the amount of thieving that goes on seems relatively low. And that's great. So I start listing things, whatever, the speakers in the middle of town, the things that I just said before, and then I get to comparing, like, oh, where I used to live, they couldn't paint the pride crosswalks or pride flags on the ground without them just being instantly destroyed, because people are just garbage and they're evil. And I didn't even get to my people are garbage for destroying these things. I just said, oh, like the crosswalks, like the rainbow crosswalks, which that in of itself is just a rainbow crosswalk. If it was a crosswalk on the way to an elementary school and nobody, used rainbows for anything else at the time, then it would just be like, that's just a rainbow crosswalk. Why will we ever need to exact war or revenge on a colored crosswalk? That's an insane thing. So I just about brought that up, and she was like, oh, you agree with that? I agree, what? And I don't know, I think it was just like, every once in a while, you just gotta jam a little bit of willful ignorance into your head so you can have a conversation with somebody. So instead of jumping immediately to, yeah, of course I'm okay with that, you crazy person, it's 2019 now. What was I gonna do? This one, I think. But I stuck with, again, ignorance-wise, just to keep her from being a monster, I kept it about painting a sidewalk, or painting a crosswalk. And I was like, painting colors on a crosswalk? Like, yeah, I'm totally fine with that. Like, why would anybody have a problem with that? And she's like, oh, well, I just, I can't support that, even though, people, and she started basically to say, like, I was like, okay, like, there's a good person in there, like, everybody deserves to live, everybody deserves their life or whatever, this and that. She's like, but that, like, we're just not supposed to agree with that, that's just something, and she said, because I'm a Christian or whatever. I'm like, all right. And instead of, like, just telling her, you're like, that's crazy, you're stupid, I was like, yeah, I was like, but still, regardless of what you think, regardless of what you agree with, I didn't even say you, I was like, regardless of what we agree with, I was like, I don't agree with, like, 99% of things everybody does. I think that most things that people do are dangerous or filthy or just mean or, whatever. Like, everything is just a thing, and it's like, but everybody has their thing, so yeah, like, keep skateboarding. Like, I'm amazed by skateboarding. I wish I could skateboard, but I'm not going to. It's terrifying and whatever, but I'm not going to go to the skateboard park and spray paint whatever skateboarders suck. I'm not going to destroy the half pipes and grinding bars and whatnot. I'm not going to do that. There's no need for that. And then I drifted over into like just straight up racism. I was like, that's like being racist or whatever. And she made sure to say, like, oh yeah, like, I think everybody's like way more beautiful than us, like, whatever. Yeah, like, black people are just the most beautiful. They're the most beautiful. Like, again, like, that's not where like, you're still pejorativizing people But it's like, whatever, it's still like, that's still in your head somewhere, old lady. That's a positive thing. And at the time, again, why I drifted back over to racism was like, yeah. We're not even going to talk about your beliefs right now. I'm just going to keep comparing it to race or anything, just activities that people do and how, yeah, most people don't agree with a lot of stuff. It was like, you know, this secondhand store, a lot of people don't agree with selling other people's stuff. It should be destroyed and nobody else should get to own it, or they should keep it forever, be buried with it. But still, I don't think that somebody should come here and spray paint like, you know, mean things about you on this thing or whatever. And I can see, like, I don't know, like that's my favorite part of being nice to people who are dark and a little bit evil is that point when you're just like, they can't fight. You can't really fight against somebody being polite to you, because that's insane. Like, that's insane. That's the same as punching a puppy. Like, did you just punch that puppy? Yeah. Why? Because it's a dog and dogs bite people. Yeah, but that thing's mouth was this big. So if it bit you, then you must have definitely deserved it. Or like, I mean, come on. Come on. It's not a Chucky doll, and even that, only because the script says you get choked out by this Chucky doll, you can handle a Chucky doll. So to me, it is just like, you're just punching puppies for no reason. Just because you don't agree with them. And I think I even said that, like, yeah, like, I don't agree with pets a lot of the time. But, you know, I've loved the pets that I have. I would never want to give them up or get rid of them or any of those things. But at the same time, I can look at them and just be like, what is your purpose here? What are you doing in my home? This doesn't make any sense. I'm abusing you, aren't I? But it's warm in here. Do you like that? Well, then you're winning. Or it's warm in here. Do you hate that? Then I'm torturing you. I don't know. We don't speak the same language. And other than, I'm not going to beat him for not speaking the same language, we'll find some sort of common ground. You need food. I want hugs from a dog, I guess. We'll come up with an agreement. That sounds creepy still, no matter what. So, as I do, I rambled on, incessantly, doing my best not to give her a chance to talk too much, because, you know, I already knew her deal. So, and the other reason also to keep it on racism so that I can help her relate was because I thought, and very racistly, I thought, hey, you're definitely a native lady, right? Like, you're pretty light, but at least one of your parents, if not your grandparents, is definitely native, so you can relate to how people shouldn't be persecuted just for kind of existing. That's not cool. And as I try to bring that up, and again, the reference point is like, I used to live literally between two reserves, and the way people in between there would talk about them is just like, they're right there. You can see that they're not doing anything. They're just regular people like you. You're both kind of being dirtbags right now. Just be nice to each other. This doesn't make sense. Like, you're not like, what? You're both the same. You live on the same street. You grew up on the same street. You went to the same school. You're the same. You're just being terrible. Anyway, so I start to tell her that kind of thing. And she super surprised me by bringing up, oh, well, there are some of them, and I don't know what she called them, but I think she might have said just them. There's some of them that they think whoa, that's not the color I intended on picking up there. And I think she said in BC, she's like, in BC, there's some of them, they won't let you do nothing. They think they know, they own everything. You know, you're not allowed to fish in this area. They won't let you take any fish. They won't let you hunt as much as they can, and they won't this and this and that. And I was just like, wow. And I let her finish. I didn't stop her and go like, do you even understand? Do you even understand what you're saying right now? And I was just like, yeah. Once you finish, I'm like, yeah, exactly. Because they learned it from white people. if that's a thing. I was like, I'm sure it's you know, a watered down version, whatever you're talking about. But yeah, everybody has regulations, and just because somebody else made the regulations instead of white people, they're kind of just the same regulations. It's just that this chunk of white people isn't getting it all this time. And she was like, oh yeah, yeah. And then in the midst of that, and basically, yeah, then I just drifted into like, yeah. White people. I said, I'm barely paraphrasing, but when she said, you know, whatever, people that aren't white are beautiful, and there's this is that, and blah, blah, the natives this, and how they do have a thing. And I'm like, exactly. I was like, because they have a thing. White people aren't a thing. It was like, the reason we exist, we're like everything that every other race doesn't need bred out of them into this thing. We're the pale, weaker version of whatever everybody else has bred themselves to be or been bred to be. Nobody started, and again, I threw that in her face too. I was like, there's no such thing as a white Jesus, because back in the Jesus times, there was no white people. Everybody just lived in the sun. That was not possible. I don't care. It's just not possible. Everybody can't live under the sun and just be figuring out society and not all be super dark. And that's just how it works. And of course, you know, lineages and whatever, it just makes sense. And she was just like, yeah, that's true. So I was like, all right, we're on the same side there. So I might leave here converting this lady to not hating people. But definitely not. Definitely she was like, yeah, but you know, but still, that other thing's still wrong. Like, all right, cool, see you later. I'm gonna go immediately tell my gay friend about this. But oh, what was the oh yeah, that's what it was. Sorry, I skipped over for a second there. So yeah, I said all that stuff, and I'm just like, yeah. Anyway, like, we're not even a thing. I'm not a thing. I'm not a thing. I don't really have a heritage other than what we did in spite of whatever the people who had heritage were doing here before we got here. Like, you understand that? Like, yeah. And I have a bunch of stories, not stories, just things that happened. But Tara's dad, I'm sure we've talked about it on the podcast 1,000 times. Like, he was a priest. And I told her this story as well. I totally forgot. And again, this is me also trying to sympathize with the fact that, like, you're definitely a native lady and you're going to relate to this, like, if it kills me. So I tell her that story of how, like, Tara's dad was a priest and he believed everybody should get a bunch of Bible in and everybody should be treated well and that good things are good. And the particular group of churchin that he was belonging to was like, yeah. No, not these people. They're monsters. They don't deserve the same kind of treatment as everybody else. Like, you jam it into them, but you don't really expect anything out of them. That's the rule. And he was like, that's not cool. And they're like, hey, standing up to us about that isn't cool. You get on board with our racism, or as punishment, we're going to make you go down there and be with those monsters, and then you'll see, like, you'll learn what it's really all about. And of course, just like, it's not a punishment to me to allow me to do the thing that I want to do. And then eventually, you know, they were still jerks like that. So he was like, I don't want to be a part of this team. I'm just going to be nice to people. So he left that team, and then he married one. Laid that on her, and she was like, oh yeah, like, that's what I forgot about all the persecution of the native people that happened so long ago. This week, all the time. One of the many reasons that Facebook is sad, because people are just persecuted daily. So anyway, once I throw, I think that point at her, one of those points is when she's like, oh yeah, she's like, well, actually, my like grandmother excuse me, maybe it was great-grandmother, but I feel like it was something as near as great-grandmother or great-grandfather is native. Like, lady, why did it take us so long to get here? This is the rope bridge I've been tying together, linking in planks this whole time, trying to bridge us together. And that was the Anyway. Hey, Miss Sniper Gamer 1. I can't follow anybody from here, but maybe when I'm done. Anyway, I assume you play games where you shoot people with sniper weapons. And thanks. I draw different heads on things. But yeah, anyway, I thought that was all insane. And then at the end of it, I sat in the car for a minute and thought, what do I do with this information? Do I just go home and do some classic Facebook justice and write a little story about, hey, nobody go to Grandma's secondhand store here. It is called Granny's or Grandma's something or other. I don't remember the rest of it, but don't go to Granny's. She means, well, everything up until that point was like, you're the nicest lady. You want to help people. You're doing whatever. You let that lady steal from you for a few weeks when you probably could have tracked her down. I don't know. And then it's just like, oh, yeah, no, but some people just got to stop what they're doing and not be. They're like, yeah. You're one of those people, though, lady, but you're also one of those people. Can you admit that? We all got stuff we got to stop and just do other things for. So I started up the car. I started to drive home. And I'm sure if there was a dashboard camera, it would look like, I don't know, the opening to Taxi or one of those movies or TV shows where it's just like, real contemplative driving. And I was like, oh, she already gave me the answer. I should go back there. And now I can't say this on the internet. Now this is evidence. I'm not actually going to do this. I don't have the ability to just go and rob a store. But I should go in there and take something. Just take something. Just because whatever. But then it's just like, that's not what I do. That doesn't make people better. Punishing people or taking things away from them doesn't make them be better people, really. That just feels something that feels like it might do a thing. But it really only affects you, especially if you get away with it. Then she doesn't really know. She doesn't have inventory of all this garbage. That's just me making some space for her to put out more garbage to sell. And the artwork paintings that she had there just weren't worth taking for the low price that she had them for, or even just stealing them. Like, And in the end, also knowing that, hey, I didn't freak out you. I gave you a very long conversation. And I say conversation. It's like this. I talked at you for a long time, old lady, and tried to convince you of something else which you didn't want to go through. And I did it in a super polite way, so you couldn't even be like, get out of here, you jerk. You're just like, you're making good points, and you're trying to see my side of things in order to get me over to this other side. But whether or not it worked or did anything, it doesn't matter, because I didn't resort to hating, being crazy, whatever, and I didn't have to, because I live in the world. I don't even live in the world. I live in this building where every few days somebody decides to scream at somebody else to get their point across. And I know that someday, because not to stereotype, but If you watch a Will and Grace or any stereotypical show with gay characters, they really paint those characters as loving antiques and secondhand store shopping and whatever. And just from going to secondhand stores with Tim and those guys, it's just like, oh yeah, this is their jam. So someday, not one, but like 2 or 5, probably big, really tough, scary gay guys are going to come in, and you're going to accidentally say what your actual thoughts are, and they're going to scream in your face, and there you go. Like, you're still going to get the screaming that you deserve, and maybe that will change your mind, but really it won't, because I would think in her head that is what she's expecting. Like, oh, they're just gonna come in here and scream at me. Of course, you F word and you whatever. And that just gives her what she wants. Like, that's why racism and all that stuff like can thrive so well, is because you can just point out, like, look, they're being mean. They're being mean. Like, no, they're fighting back. They're fighting back. Hey, Boxy Fox. Daryl's here. Daryl's here. Oh, squid-eating Daryl. Too dark. Anyway, the poop story. If this is the one... Actually, there's a bunch of poop stories. There's so many poop stories. One poop story, I'm pretty sure this definitely isn't the one Daryl's thinking of, was... Like, it's still mind-blowing. I didn't even know what to do with it other than, like, go ask anybody. Like, somebody did this. Like, somebody did this, and I don't know what to do with this information. But I went to the bathroom. Valid Gund, thanks for following. I didn't notice if the alerts showed up. I don't know if alerts show up for Mixer and YouTube. I think just for Twitch. But one day I went into the studio. This is the studio bathroom, and for some reason it became my gift, my curse, that someday I will make this bathroom clean for an entire shift, and it will just stay clean, and that will be wonderful. And it just never happened. It just never happened. The bathrooms, there's always something weird. Always somebody stealing toilet papers. Or anything. But one day I went in, and I don't think it was to poop, but I think it was just one of those, like the public bathroom type toilet seat that's just like a U and has like a space in the front. And at the back of the toilet seat, like way back there, oh, here we go. There was this like Toblerone triangle is how I was describing it, of poop on the whole back of the toilet seat. And I can't remember if it was flushed as well. I think it might have been flushed, but I don't know if we can see this. This is my eraser here. But it was kind of like this, like on a toilet seat, except poop. And it was like, I'm going to say bigger. It was probably bigger, but in the world of a Play-Doh fun factory, we have to surmise, and I surmosen, that it was. I mean, if we were going to go to the CSI, we could have gotten the bum prints from everybody and figured out who it was. But it definitely looked like it was somebody pooped, and however they sat on the toilet, it Play-Doh fun factoried between their cheeks and the seat, and it was left there. I'm just like, how do you not notice this? How do you not notice what is happening? Oh, snaps. So clean that up, and then I feel like I wasn't able to use that bathroom for sitting purposes for a while. 'Cause I'm like, I can't. It's just, I feel like there's still poop on it. There's still poop on it. There's still poop on it, and it will never go away. But the crazy one, which if you go to YouTube, it's there somewhere. But the other one is I watched the studio at night. I was the night supervisor for the longest time. So anything that came up, it was just like, hey, you deal with this? Like, why? What do you people do when you're at home and something goes wrong? Like, we call a landlord, I guess, or we just don't deal with it. Like, all right, that makes sense. So, I forget. I think, like I said, it's animated. We told the story on the podcast 1,000 years ago. But I'm pretty sure somebody came into the office first and was like, yeah, there's a problem in the bathroom. Like, all right, cool, go deal with it then. Like, no, like, it's a problem in the bathroom? Who deals with that? Like, whoever saw it, I guess. You saw the problem in the bathroom? Clean it up. Like, is it just as like, well, somebody didn't flush. Well, then flush it. Like, this isn't going to flush. I don't know what this means. Like, all right, fine. Go back to your desk. Do your work. Forget anything ever happened. I will venture into this toilet world and deal with this toilet mess. So I go in. And best I can figure is one person used the bathroom, took a big old poop, and they used the most toilet paper possible to wipe and jam all that in the toilet and walked away. Because I'm going to guess they were afraid, if I flush this, I'll be the one that makes the toilet overflow. So I'm just going to back away from this and leave it as is. And they did. And then somebody else came into the bathroom and was like, oh my God, somebody just filled this thing with like toilet paper and poop and just walked away. But I am having a dire defecation emergency, so I will indeed defecate. And then they did. So that person, as near as I could tell, or one of them, whatever it was, somebody put paper towel in there as well. It wasn't just jammed up with toilet paper, it was a pile of paper towels. So this thing was just jam-packed. And to the point of like, some of it was, at rim level, if not cresting over, if you got down and looked level. Something either at least wet paper towel-y or defecate adjacent was coming out. So it's like, all right, cool. Well, I know that I can't flush this. This is only going to get worse before it gets better. So I got to get this out. It's not going down, so it's got to come up. All right, I'm in an animation studio in a crazy old building that, as near as I could tell, should be probably shut down, and we should be kicked out of this building because it's definitely not up to code in many different ways. But the basement isn't locked. I'll go down to the basement. Maybe there's something down there I could use as a turd scoop. And, you know, as you'll find in most basements in the world, there's always something you can use as a turd scoop. Why? Because anything can be used as a turd scoop. That's right, Fanta can. Anything, as disgusting as that is. So, dig around for a little bit. Go past the dead pigeons on the ledge that somehow got into the building and died. The other pieces of whatever mysterious questions that I don't want to answer. I'm not sure if this was the time or not as well. It might have been the same time, might have been a different time, but we didn't all have cell phones that were flashlights at the time. We definitely didn't carry on flashlights, but we did have lightsabers. So might have gone down to look for a thing with a lightsaber, but I think that was a story, completely different story from another day when Ron went down to discover the basement for the first time with lightsabers. And I think this, I might have known where the light was. So yeah, I find like a whatever, one by two or something like that. It's just like a board, probably about this long. Take it back upstairs. And look at the situation again. I'm like, all right, I've got a stick. Got a garbage can. Garbage can's not really meant to have a person sit on it and take a wicked dump. That's just not what garbage cans are for, but that's basically what I'm doing. If anything, this is at least two people's dumps worth. I'm going to put in the garbage. Feel like somebody should stop me, but they're not. So I go in, and I think Steph came to help me. And then once she realized this is actually what's going to happen, so I pulled the garbage can over to the toilet, and she was like, "Oh, this is actually like, I can't be here for this. Like, that's fine. Of course not. Who would be? Go be a normal person, and I'll deal with this." So yeah, you start kind of first. You get it in there, and you gotta do some swirling. You like spaghetti and meatballs it up because it's a lot of paper towel and it's wet, so that sticks on pretty good. And then after a while, you're just like, I'm just scooping like it's a shovel, just scooping like it's a shovel into the garbage can. Like this is horrific. And then maybe I might have left a little bit that I'm like, all right, that's flushable. Flush. It went down. Everything was cool. I think. It might have also flooded, but I don't think. I think that was another time where same deal. Stephanie was like, "Oh, the toilet's making a weird noise." Like, all right, it's just running. It sounds like it's just running. I'll just take the back off. I'll bend the thing, and then we're all good. No big deal. Took the thing off, and I've never seen it. It was just shooting water from that spout in the back straight to the ceiling. It bounced off the ceiling, just soaked me. Again, Stephanie backed out and disappeared. And it just filled the bathroom to the point where like I got a snow shovel and we were shoveling it either into the toilet or into the little drain on the floor. Just tons of bathroom adventures. So yeah, anyway, I put a bunch of turds in a garbage bag, tie up that garbage bag, go up to the third floor where like the business offices are, and that's where the dumpsters are as well. Because people would use them or steal them or whatever. So I go up there and it's just like, this seems insane, but I mean, it's probably not going to smell any worse than any of the garbage that's going to be in there. It already smells like dead bodies, so I don't know, whatever. Should be fine. And away it goes. And yeah, we leave some business turds upstairs. And then after that, I left the turd stick in the bathroom. Never really thinking about how that one end is just covered in turds. And then later, when there would be some sort of turd emergency, and people would be like, "Hey, we got a turd emergency. What do we do?" And I was like, "There's a stick in there." I was like, "But did you use that before?" Like, I did. How do you know which end is the right end? And I say, sometimes in life, you don't know which end of the stick is the one that's been used to scoop up human feces. You just don't know. You take the good, you take the bad, and there you have the fantas of life. The fantas of life. So the world never seems to be living up to your dreams. Something else, and hey, what's going on? Anyway, we drew a bug lady. Let's erase some of these pencil lines. I need a new eraser. Sometimes some crimes go slipping through the cracks, 'cause these two big poos are stinking up this room. There's no stick too big, no stick too small. When you need a scoop, just call a big shit stick and use it to flick the turds in the bag and then send them upstairs. Where is my letter paper? Oh, and I believe I ran into the religious lady that left me this religious note in my door, and she said she was in the hallway looking for a cross, and she was like, "I don't even know what this means." I was talking to a very religious person, and the cross had just like jumped out of my hand. And then I just couldn't find it anywhere. I don't know what that could mean. Like, ugh, I don't know. Maybe it needed to go to somebody else. Maybe that religious person you were talking to actually very much wasn't. I feel like this needs a little more. And at a certain point, I was like, "Oh, by now, both ends are definitely covered. Wrap it in paper towel first, then use your stick." That's how the world works. All right, we're gonna play some Countdown. One of these days, I'll set it back up so I can just type it on the screen, I guess. But lazy. The darkest marker. So, if you're new to the stream, you can play along at home. You don't have to present on the screen like Daryl and Moxie. Not Daryl, but Daryl, like if you want to. But like Pat, Moxie Fox, and the Space Goonie, and the Chipmunks do. We're going to play some Countdown. I'll randomly find 9 letters on my phone with the letter randomizer. Then I'll throw 30 seconds on the clock. That's right. I got a clock I can throw on the screen, and then within those 30 seconds, you try to come up with the longest word you can. It's like one word boggle. And where's my randomizer? And yeah, there's no prizes. Oh man. All right. Had my leg bent up way too long. Quiet down, randomizer. So first letter is H, and rules. No proper names of things, just words. And again, just one. You declare one, but yeah, you can say it in the stream. And then we have our own little show winner, and that's it. So H, G, F. C is for cookie. That's good enough for me. Not getting any vowels today. Oh, there we go. A. Make another vowel. Oh, U. And I count Y as a vowel. And then next, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I don't even know if this can make a word. And an E. Well, good luck with that. As 30 seconds. That's HGFCAUYNE. Longest word, 30 seconds, go! Oh, just turn the thing back on. That's 30 seconds. Is that a word, Daryl? Is that a word? It was pretty quick, though. I feel like 1, 2, 3, 4 is probably the best that I can come up with. Which is better than Pat's 3. Chipmunks also with a 3. Ooh, usually the Chipmunks and Pat are in competition. Nay. All right, I'll give you nay. That's probably a word. Space Goonie has a 5, but she's not sure if it's a full word or a real word or not. Oh. Yeah, I think I might have a 5. Daily Chipmunks has got hey. Tara's got a 4. We have fun. Facey? Facey. I'm not saying that you're pretty or that you're ugly. I'm just saying that you're super facey. You're just real facey. Like, you're all up in my, you got, your face is really just, 2 eyes, nose. It's super facey. I don't know. Maybe that's a word. But face is 4. Gacy, of course, you maniac, but names don't count. And Daryl's now claiming he's got a 6, maybe a 7, because he's trumping out over there. I want to say KG is the 5 that I can come up with. C-A-G-E-Y. Is there an E-Y in KG, or is it just Y? But other than that, I was mostly just thinking cane and trying to spell candy with no D. Like I said, I watched the show, Katz's Countdown. I watch it for the comedy and the fun, and I rarely learn a lot from the spelling and numbers. But I feel like when they have their factoids, a lot of those stick in my head, and they become part of the things that I think about all the time. Well, I mean, obvious, cafuné is a word that we all would have. I mean, if we're going to go with obvious words, Daryl, yes, cafuné. I haven't checked out Taskmaster yet. I keep wanting to just because, like, I think it's Greg Davies, and is James Acaster part of that? I know that whoever hosts it I like, but there's a new show that I think just started with James Acaster and I can't remember, but it's a show that I don't watch, but he's like one of the co-hosts on The Last Leg, and he's John Richardson's friend. They used to be roommates. I don't know why, I can't remember, but anyway, they have a show now where it's basically they make up facts, and it sounds like a balderdash type thing. You just have to make your thing sound the most believable, and then you win. So I'll have to check that one out as well. Josh Whitcomb. There we go. I don't know why I can even remember that name anyway, but that's who it was. And I think that's everything. I feel like there was something else I wanted to talk about, look at, but Can't think of it. Anyway, yeah, like I said, finally put this thing together, and that's the funnest thing in the world. I'm gonna put some clay on his face later, and have some fun with that. Put some clothes on him. Do a bunch of weird stuff with him, and just animate him always and forever. Even though I've got so many toys that I've specifically bought just because they're fully articulated, but action figures don't stand up as good as this. They don't have nice solid joints like this. So anyway, it's the best. It's the best. Thanks, Boxy Fox, for this gift from 35 years ago. And anyway, yeah, I was going to stop motion with him, but yeah, maybe next time we'll actually play with him, stop motion and do some stuff. But yeah, I want to get the right camera set up for that. And yeah, I don't know. Other than I feel like it does need to be a little more shadow under here. Maybe a version will have a wiener. But yeah, this has been Stream, and see you guys next Tuesday, and or we'll do a podcast in between. Like I said, I'm still putting out the audio version of last podcast that we did on Stream there, so that will sound real nice on your Spotify or your iTunes. All the things are at nosuchthingsgrownups.com, except for the links to Mixer. Well, I guess YouTube is there, but yeah, I'll have to add Mixer and some other live streaming things, which is what I meant to do this weekend, and I didn't. Instead, I put together a little robot doll. Yeah, if there was something else, I definitely can't remember it. And we'll cover it next time. Like I said, this is podcast. This is not podcast. This is Stream. And see you next Tuesday. Everybody. And thanks for following and all that stuff. There's a store, books, etc. Thanks again for buying a book, Daryl. Can't seem to find... Okay, the credits button. Get out of here and go to bed. Visions of insect ladies dancing through your head. But they're not mean. They're just, I don't know, things that are dead.